Hey, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but this is a video on Carrot from the test server, right? So we're going to be looking at the global numbers of Carrot, as well as some game comps and comparisons later on with some charts. And I've added a couple new charts this time around, going a bit deeper into what different damage modifiers can come into play. And, well, I'll leave you with the purses and I'll see you later. And here we are. As you can see, the green bars are the Kektus damage numbers. As you guys all know, the Kektus has 0% resistance. The bar in black is Bygone, and the gray bar is Sequential. Fun little fact here. Sequential has slightly less resistance than Bygone, so sequential numbers are a little bit higher. And another thing that's interesting to note is due to how Lin's S4 works, it gets a huge boost in Bygone as Lin's S4 damage is doubled, but only in Bygone, as you can see. So it makes any of the Copium comps or Altered running Lin get a massive boost compared to the rest, while everything else, obviously, the damage gets a little bit lower compared to the Kektus, as you go from having 0 resistance from the Kektus to around 36.2%, and in Sequential that's around 35% or so. But yeah, those are the Bygone, Kektus, and Sequential numbers. The next thing we'll be going over is the raid numbers. And now we're back here with the raid, Final Trial, Evolution Frontier, Evolution Vanguard, and Void Abyss numbers. The bar in black is just the regular damage to it with the regular 50% resistance that these contents typically have, while the gray bar is the amount of damage you would actually be doing if the boss has a shield, which is either a white or a yellow bar that is underneath their health bar. Shields typically reduce your damage by 50%, but in this case, you have some ways to at least ignore parts of it. Void Piercer's 2-piece matrices gives you 30% shield ignore, while the Nanyan skill, right, which you can see some interesting damage numbers a bit lower on the chart here. Well, she has the funny little gimmick here in which during her skill, as long as you on-field Nanyan, all the damage that hits the target completely ignores and bypasses the shield. So that comp for Frost gets a little bit of an edge, but gets even crazier when we go into the Origin of War numbers, and that's kind of why that old comp that still uses Nanyan main DPS for Frost is still completely relevant and at the top of the meta for Origin of War today. And here are the numbers for Origin of War. So the way Origin of War works is throughout the season, the enemy's resistance stats will get reduced and a damage multiplier is also added. Or rather, it's changed to make it easier to clear the floors. At 2000% difficulty, the current season it's at 85% resistance. I just put different breakpoints for 60% and 70% to represent, you know, a rough estimate of between 1000% difficulty and just under 2000%. I think around 1000% is when it gets to similar numbers to the raid numbers, right, from earlier. But this is just like a good little guideline to see how the difficulty would affect your damage, because obviously you're going to be doing less in that case. But the way Origin of War works as well is the actual enemy HP pools, they do not change. So if enemy has, let's say, 10 billion HP at a difficulty of 2000%, it will still have that much HP at 100%. The only thing that changes is you get more damage multipliers at lower difficulties, and the enemy resistance is reduced. Something else to keep in mind for Origin of War is that while the altered numbers look really high, this is just the base damage that they would be doing in Origin of War. A lot of the buffs just that you can get in Origin of War wouldn't really apply to the altered comp, so they don't have that much more to gain relative to these compared to others, as well as if an enemy has a fear buff, well, whatever element they're feared against, they they take 40% increased damage of that element. However, with how Altered works, the vast majority of its damage does not interact with fear at all, because it completely ignores a bunch of those other hidden modifiers. And of course, there's no damage percent buff that you can get for Altered, unlike the other elements, so that's something else to keep in mind. Altered will only scale purely from attack and crit effects. However, what's really interesting though is that the old Frost comp with Non-Yin there, but then now it uses Nola and Grey Fox for extra background damage. That comp is basically unimpacted at all from enemy shields, as well, it gets to enjoy the fact that it can ignore basically all of the enemy shields. So that's like a fun little thing that it can do. Unlike the other comps there. Right, everything else, they do less damage, but for some reason now, because of that interaction with Non-Yin, that specific Frost comp just annihilates everything. Nothing really comes close to it. But that's just the situation and world we live in. Despite a lot of the other newer units releasing, that one weird little interaction still puts that old Frost comp ahead in this specific game mode. But that's what happens when you have shields reducing everyone's damage by 50% and you decide to ignore it. Right? And with that, that's it with all the numbers and calcs here. I unfortunately couldn't do more because I didn't get access to a couple other weapons that I do not have on the test server. But that's just how things are. And as usual though, leave a like if you like it, and subscribe for more. Hopefully I can see you guys again next time.